A Complete Unknown is directed by James Mangold, and it stars Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan. And the movie focuses on his early years up to about 1965. And yeah, he became a revolutionary in the folk music scene. And here we get to see the story of it on the big screen in a big 2.5 hour epic biopic. Okay, A Complete Unknown. What did I think of this movie? Well, considering that I am not a Bob Dylan fan, it's... Okay, here's my situation on Bob Dylan. I think he wrote great songs. The only thing is, I'm not a big fan of his singing voice. It's definitely acquired taste. And I'm not one of those people that really has a taste for, like, Bob Dylan's singing. That being said, I really enjoyed this movie. I found this movie to be an exceptionally fascinating look at Bob Dylan's early years in his career. Starts off when he's 19 years old. And yeah, I thought this movie was damn good. It was very entertaining. Although I will say, this movie could have used a little more information on Bob Dylan, because that's one thing about this movie. This movie completely keeps him as sort of a mystery figure. Like, you still don't know much about him after this movie's over. But nonetheless, it is still a fascinating look at Bob Dylan in general. The performances here are all excellent. I thought Timothy Chalamet was perfect as Bob Dylan. Not a single flaw in his performance here. I do believe Timothy Chalamet deserves an Oscar nomination here. He played Bob Dylan extremely well. He got the mannerisms there, and Timothy Chalamet singing really does sound like Bob Dylan too. It's kind of uncanny. So even though I don't care for Bob Dylan singing, Timothy Chalamet did a damn good impersonation. So can I really fault the movie for that? Absolutely not. Timothy Chalamet understood the assignment and he performed it great. You also got Edward Norton in here as Pete Seeger, and he was great in here as well. But the other standout here besides Timothy Chalamet is Boyd Holbrook as Johnny Cash. He was awesome in here. I mean, he's no Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash from James Mangold's other musical biopic, Walk the Line, but goddamn, Boyd Holbrook really made Johnny Cash his own here. It's a totally different performance from what Joaquin Phoenix offered, but it's still really good, and I also think there might be an Oscar nomination for him as well. He was really good. And speaking of James Mangold, his direction here is excellent too. This movie's very well paced. The shots are great. He definitely gets good performances from all of the actors here. I don't think this is one of James Mangold's finest directorial efforts. Like, I definitely really much prefer Walk the Line over this. And also movies like Logan, 3:10 to Yuma, Ford v Ferrari. Those are all better than this too. But he still did an excellent job here nonetheless. James Mangold is one of the best directors working today, and he still does prove it once again here. And another great thing I can say about this movie is its pacing. This movie is just under 2.5 hours, but it flies right by. It did not feel that long. This movie starts and it just goes and it doesn't stop. I love movies, especially long ones, that can feel really short. It's like, holy shit, this movie flies right by. That's how you can tell you are entertained. And I was indeed entertained by this film. This movie is also beautifully shot. Especially during the concert sequences. The concert sequences in this movie are really well done, and that's thanks to Timothy Chalamet's excellent performance. But this is also a gorgeous looking film. It definitely looked great seeing it on the big screen. I really enjoyed how this movie looked. And the production design is also really good. When you watch the movie, you'll definitely feel like you were back in the early to mid 60s. That's how well done this movie is in terms of its visual presentation. I do only have a couple of issues with this film. One of them being is that I do wish I could have known more about Bob Dylan. It's like I explained earlier, is that this movie does kind of keep him a mystery, and you're making a biopic, so the whole point is just to tell his life story. So I'm like, I could have used a bit more information on him, but that's really minor. But then the other thing is, this movie does play off as a routine biopic. That's just how biopics are. I usually don't have a problem with it, but when it's with somebody as mysterious and as interesting as Bob Dylan, you would kind of hope that it would be a little more unorthodox, just a little less routine. That's it. I love this film. It is definitely a nice return to form from James Mangold. I know a lot of people didn't like his last film, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. That movie's fine. It's definitely not one of James Mangold's finest hours, that's for sure. This movie, I think, if you were pissed off at his directorial effort from that, this movie will win you over again. This was a damn great film. I don't think it's in my top 10 best of the year or anything, but I really had a great time with it nonetheless. Really solid recommendation from me. I am going to give A Complete Unknown an A-.